What's cooking?
Special bell peppers and beef.
In Magic the Gathering, I really do not like going against strong, powerful cards that often win a game by themselves. Because from my experience, most games are won by a player that has the most amount of either card draw, mana, tutor capabilities, and even board control. And if you were to analyze each of these categories, you will notice that all of them deal with some sort of resource gain or management. Because at the end of the day, Magic is a resource-based tabletop game, and the player with the most resources often win the game. This for me often ruins my idea of casual EDH, because most of these categories are dominated with cards that are cheap mana-wise, and are strong by themselves in some cases. Each of these usually builds a powerful board state by itself through one turn cycle, and in most cases, the only way to deal with these cards is usually to pay out any mana that it forces you to pay to deal with it, such as Smothering Tide or Risk Study, or have to pay an extreme amount of mana just to get around sometimes its ward cost. And I don't want to confuse you. I'm not referring to generally good cards that can do well by themselves without other requirements. Those cards require a video on themselves. I mean the cards that have an immediate effect on the table without the need of another card to function well. For example, Panharmonicon is a generally really good card. However, it only operates well whenever you have creatures entering the battlefield each turn. Whereas a card like Dockside Extortionist operates well on its own, and it fits in any other deck without a thought. What makes it even more powerful is when these really good cards operate together with the cards that just are baseline goods that require another, such as Panharmonicon and Dockside Extortionist working together. I know that sounds a little redundant, however, I'm trying to say that powerful cards that A, change the board state radically and require immediate attention, and B, often leads to the winning of the game at the table. Am I making sense? What I'm trying to say is that there's a big difference between cards like Beast Within, Generous Gift, Counterspell, the various green ramp spells that get you a land that's untapped, compared to a Cyclonic Rift that just throws everything back into your hands. It's the fact that it just fits in a deck so well compared to the other cards that just get rid of a thing and can fit in any deck, yes, but it isn't stupid busted. I know it sounds like I'm just another guy on the internet that's raging about powerful cards in Magic. However, to a certain degree, it's just the lack of accessibility to some of these cards due to their price point. And there can be an argument for proxying, but that's not the point of this video. The idea of what I'm trying to say, and my take on it, is that to a certain degree, whenever you bring these cards to a pod, you need to have the pod reciprocate the same level of power, so everything can be even. I'm okay with being stomped as long as we can get more reps for games in. What I'm not okay is seeing your deck be the exact same with everything else, because all those powerful cards make the deck eerily consistent to CEDH level commander gameplay. Although it seems like I've just been hating on these cards, I also need to point out the fun it does provide whenever I come across them, because to a certain degree, I enjoy strategizing my next turn against that player, especially with how it affects the pod's dynamic with all the decks that are presenting and the threats that are coming out. Whenever I made this video and when I was writing bare bones script for this, I was under the assumption that, strong cards should be like Smothering Tide, Heuristic Study, Cyclonic Rift, the One Ring, etc. However, the idea of powerful card can encompass a lot of things, because, power is subjective, especially in Magic the Gathering. The point I want to make when it comes to dealing with these certain threats is how I need to edit and remake my deck to fit those kind of pods, and how if I want to make a deck that encompasses all levels of gameplay, I need to be able to adjust the ratio of bombs to removal to different kinds of interaction, because in my opinion, a more interactive game of Magic is the most fun kind of game Magic. When I first started playing, most of the games were just doing our own thing until we decided to swing out all at once. Most of the people at my pod were scared to swing at each other, because if you swung first, you'd be the threat, where now I start to see that a more threatening board state, which is like the more access you have to resources and more cards for your deck, the more threatening you are to me and how I need to hit you early so later in the game I can finish you outright with one of my win cons. My big idea for this video is not to say you should just take out these cards and never use them and how we should ban them because of how good they are. What I want you to take away from this video is how you need to structure pods for certain kind of players so that you don't have someone that has a near CDH deck going against someone who has the most basic of basic early precons that aren't like 2021 precons. I think we as players should start editing our decks to start encompassing more pods or even designing decks for certain kind of players in our playgroup, because at the end of the day, this is like a community thing, and whenever you know you're going against certain kind of players and the certain kind of decks they make, you should be making decks to be around those pods and always have like a deck in reserve for any randoms that join in and that you get to have fun and meet new people. At the end of the day, Magic the Gathering is a multiplayer game, and it's not always just about winning. It's always about including everybody in the amount of fun that everybody else is having. Of course, winning is the end goal and that we should all strive and make our decks to do exactly that, but there are other aspects to winning that is not just stomping. A lot of my friends, especially one of my closer friends, one of his favorite things to do, especially in some decks, is to have an achievement win. Something that he could do as a side quest in his deck that if he were to pull off would be like an achievement win, because not only does it give him a win, but is a kind of winning that allows him to have the most amount of fun with his deck. And I think a lot of people should start analyzing their decks and seeing not only just is the optimal play, but also the kind of play that has everybody in mind when it comes to fun. And I could go on about how that can be a weird mindset, especially people that make their decks to be just chaotic and destroying destroying the battlefield in every way and ruining everybody's permanence, but having their own kind of fun. And if you have that kind of pod and you like that, then you should keep doing that. However, when it comes to just a general mindset for including each other in playing the game as a community, there should be a certain level of cooperation with what we're bringing out, and that we don't, pull out a literal bazooka to someone's knife fight. I feel as though I've been rambling for a while now. I mean, this is a very cut and edited version of my longer take of this, and if you like me to go on about this more, make sure to like and subscribe and maybe comment, and I would love to hear everybody's opinions about this, because this is a community based game that we all enjoy, and everybody has their own individual opinions and feel as though what they do is the best for what they classify as fun and what they classify for their friends as fun. And I would love to hear more about it. I have not really traveled out past my own few game stores, and I would love to play and get more immersed with the community and eventually play with people that are a lot better than me and a lot more famous than me. That's why I'm kind of doing this, and I could just nerd out about this, and I will if everybody likes it. So if you want to hear more, hopefully you stick around to see what else I can do.
Are you listening to me?
There's no beef in here. So you wouldn't really call it bell peppers and beef, now would you?
Yes, I would.
Well, it's not!